各位同學 welcome to my class.
The story begins in a bustling high school called Taiguchi, where a determined individual named Chan applies for a new teaching job. During the job interview, the principal candidly informs Chan that the working hours are notoriously long, the salary is disappointingly low, and the class he would be managing is notoriously filled with troublesome and challenging students. Nevertheless, Chan steadfastly insisted on his opinion and confirmed that he was ready and willing to take on the considerable responsibility of educating these students, which ultimately led the principal to agree to hire him. The principal then informed Chan that his work would commence the very next day at 8 in the morning. Before he left the office, the principal posed a thought-provoking question, asking him why he had insisted on working at this particular school despite the evident challenges. This question will unveil its answer through the unfolding events of the story, so stay tuned until the very end for the revelation. The next morning, Professor Chan woke up early and energetically started his day with vigorous exercises and push-ups, illustrating that he is indeed a very disciplined person. Through a series of old photographs, we discover that he was previously a highly skilled Special Forces officer before making the significant decision to embark on his new career as a teacher, seeking a different kind of fulfillment. The narrative then shifts focus to introduce some of the students he would be teaching, including the mischievous brothers Bing and Pong, who are known for their antics. Then there's Gordon, a young American man living in China, and Jin, a girl filled with jealousy who struggles with her complicated family issues. Additionally, we meet Chris, a poor boy whose grandmother works hard to mend his torn shoes, reflecting the family's difficult financial situation. Lastly, there's Chad, a student who rushes on his motorcycle in a frantic attempt to avoid being late for class on the very first day of high school. We also meet teacher Yang and Professor John, who are held in great respect and admiration by their students, creating a stark contrast to Chan's situation. Unfortunately for Chan, he was assigned the most difficult and troublesome students in the entire school. When he entered the chaotic classroom, he found that his students completely ignored him, as if he were invisible. Some students were engaged in lively chatter, others were fiddling incessantly with their phones, some were immersed in their music, and a few were even deep in slumber, completely oblivious to his presence. He asked Bing to stop experimenting with sodium in the classroom, directed Gordon to fix his guitar that was distracting everyone, and firmly ordered Pong to stop playing with his phone during class time. Chan then began to go around to each student and tell them a specific fact about themselves, which amazed them with his knowledge of everything. Despite that, they remained unresponsive. When he turned to the board to explain the lesson, the students took advantage of his distraction and returned to playing and winning. But Chan, with his experience and previous military skills, accurately threw a pen at the fire alarm, then opened his umbrella as water sprayed down to soak all the students, teaching them his first lesson about discipline. After the class ended, the failing students gathered in a separate place and started smoking cigarettes together, discussing the need to get rid of Professor Chan by any means, as he did not grant them the complete freedom to fool around as they were used to. During their conversation, we discover that Chris is infatuated with his dream girl, Mai, who is an outstanding student in another class. His friends quickly find out and start teasing him until he feels embarrassed. Suddenly, the bully Jack appears with his friends. Jack begins to mock Chris and his friends, accusing them of failing in school, which increases Chris's resentment towards him, especially since he knows that Jack likes the same girl. During a basketball game in the schoolyard, Jack scores a goal and seizes the opportunity to harass me, igniting Chris's anger. He loses his temper and throws a bottle onto the court, causing Jack to trip and fall on his back amid the mocking laughter of those present. But teacher Yang witnesses what happened and orders Chris and the other failing students to write 100 pages as punishment. While they begin to carry out the task, Gordon comes up with a clever idea and places a small worm among the papers. After they finish, Chris hands the notebooks to teacher Yang, and as she starts reviewing them, the worm falls onto the paper. The teacher is startled and drops her coffee cup, causing the papers to scatter, and the mischievous students burst into laughter mockingly. At that time, some important officials had come to the school to meet with the principal. As for Professor Chan, The students had set a trap for him at the classroom door to annoy him, and as soon as he opened the door and entered, he skillfully dodged a bucket that was about to fall on his head. This astonished and bewildered everyone, of course, as they did not know that he had previously been a special forces officer. At the beginning of the class, Chan tried to talk to the students, but they ignored him as usual. He then told them that he would ask them 3 questions, and if they could answer them, they would be allowed to leave the classroom. This caught the students' attention, and they focused on him eagerly. Chan approached Chris and asked him to give him the pack of cigarettes he had hidden. Chris was nervous and trembled with fear, but the teacher reassured him, saying, "Don't worry, I'll give it back to you." He then took the pack and asked his first question to the class. "What are the components of cigarettes?" Gordon answered correctly, so Chan allowed him to leave the classroom. This excited the other students, who wanted their chance too. But Chan took advantage of everyone's focus on him and began to explain in detail the components of cigarettes, clarifying their dangers to their health and how they cause addiction, and that tobacco companies exploit this to make huge profits at the expense of people's health and lives. The students were shocked when they discovered this bitter truth, and Chan told them that he wanted to be like an older brother to them, to help and guide them towards success in their studies. Meanwhile, the officials informed the principal about the large number of failing students in the school, and that continuing this situation could lead to funding cuts from the government, meaning if they did not succeed by the end of the year, the school would be completely closed, which plunged the principal into deep sadness and anxiety. During the break in lunchtime, Chris and his friends attacked the bully Jack in revenge for throwing a bottle at them on the court. Jack responded with biting sarcasm and did not stop there. He mocked Chris's deceased parents, which ignited Chris's anger. The fight quickly turned into a chaotic mess, and the police had to come to break up the brawl. The result was their expulsion from school as punishment. Professor Chan was shocked when the principal informed him of what had happened, and he rushed to confront Chris and try to rein him in. But the furious Chris shouted that life was unfair and that they were the only ones punished, even though they were not responsible for starting the fight. Chan looked at him firmly and said, "You need to be a real man and learn how to build yourself from scratch instead of letting your emotions control you." He then provided him and his friends with appeal papers to write a formal apology to the school. They all took the papers to avoid expulsion, but Chris decided to leave school for good. In the evening, he sat with Teacher Young and gave her an apple, advising her to take care of her health and stop eating harmful canned foods. Yang smiled gratefully and then gifted him an important book containing special instructions for new teachers. At that moment, a clever idea sparked in Chan's mind, and he began to review the students' files to learn everything he needed about the 5 failing students. He started with Gordon, who had loved playing music since childhood, but suffered from bullying for being an American living in China, which made him shy and withdrawn. He then read about Jin, who was living an internal struggle due to her parents' constant preference for her brother over her, leading her to cut her hair to look like boys, and she found her passion in car racing. As for the twins Bing and Pong, they were victims of their parents' separation and their father's alcohol addiction, which led to their academic failure and addiction to video games. When Chan learned about their sad stories, he felt pity and convinced the principal that these students did not need expulsion, but rather help. After much thought, the principal gave Chan one last chance to teach and guide them toward good behavior. Meanwhile, Chris was forced to work in a nightclub to earn money, where he encountered the secret businessman Fang, who was talking with a dangerous criminal about their plan to demolish the school after its failure and build a huge hotel in its place. This angered Chris, so he seized the opportunity and stole Lou's lighter. Shortly after, Fang left the nightclub and ordered his men to capture Chris and punish him to retrieve the lighter. Soon after Fang leaves, Lou orders his men to capture Chris and retrieve it. They beat him brutally, but Chris stands his ground without fear. When Lou checks his wallet, he discovers Chris is a student at the very school he plans to destroy. Instead of punishing him, Lou offers him a deal: work for him in exchange for a large sum of money, and oddly lets him keep the lighter. That night, Chan goes looking for Gordon and asks his mother about him. At the same time, Gordon spots a man selling tickets to a concert. Instead of buying one, he snatches it and runs, triggering a chase through the crowded market. When Chan sees the chaos, he jumps in to help. He even pulls out a knife to stop the man, only to realize the pursuer is Gordon's own father. Embarrassed, Chan apologizes, buys the ticket himself, and takes Gordon to the concert. At the venue, Gordon hesitates, admitting he wants to sing but fears the crowd. To encourage him, Chan starts singing first. Inspired, Gordon gathers his courage, steps onto the stage, and impresses everyone with his voice and guitar skills. Meanwhile, the twins Ping and Pong face trouble at home when their drunken father returns and starts another argument. Ping ignores him, lost in video games, while Pong leaves to study somewhere quiet. The next morning, Chan confronts their father, warning that his alcoholism will ruin his son's future and get them expelled. Elsewhere, Jin is studying with her younger brother when her father suddenly announces that he will force her to marry after graduation, especially since her grades are poor. Furious, she storms out and takes his car. Chan stops her for driving without a license, but then gives her a chance to prove herself, taking her to a small racetrack. She challenges him, but Chan tells her the real opponent is her father. The father accepts. If Jin wins, she earns her freedom. If she loses, she must obey him. Jin skillfully takes the lead and wins, yet her father still refuses to change his mind. Angry, she speeds onto the main road, and her father chases her until his car suddenly flips. A truck nearly hits Jin, and he believes she's dead. Broken, he admits he was harsh only because he loved her and feared for her. Moments later, Jin emerges safely from behind the truck. Father and daughter reconcile, just as Chan arrives in another racing car, lightening the mood by jokingly demanding they pay for the damaged vehicles. In another scene, the twins, Ping and Pong, decide to enter a clinic to overcome their smoking addiction. There they unexpectedly meet their father, who admits he turned to alcohol after their mother left him. He breaks down in tears, telling them he still loves them and promises to start a new life. Despite their anger and disappointment, the twins choose to forgive him and give him another chance. Soon, a photo of the reunited family spreads online, filling Chan with happiness as it becomes a symbol of a fresh start. That night, the criminal Lo trains in a fighting gym where it's revealed that Chris has already begun working for him. Lo tells him the school is worthless and that the only path to success is to become ruthless. He then explains he has placed a bet on an MMA fight and needs the opposing fighter to lose. He hands Chris a small bottle of sedative, ordering him to slip it into the rival's drink before the match to guarantee victory. The next morning, Chan visits Chris's grandmother and finds her living in poverty. He learns that Chris's parents died in a tragic accident when he was young. While looking around, Chan notices a bottle of sedative near a photo of an MMA match. Realizing Chris is in serious trouble, not wanting to worry the grandmother, he hides the truth, tells her Chris has won a scholarship, and leaves her some money in a kind gesture. That evening, Lo orders Chris to carry out the plan and drug the rival fighter's water, but a trainer catches him in the act. They beat him badly, and Lo locks him inside a metal locker to keep him silent. At that moment, Chan arrives searching for Chris. The fighters mock him, saying he's just a teacher with no place in their world. Suddenly, Chris's cries echo from inside the locker. Furious, Chan charges in to rescue his student, no matter the cost. A brutal fight erupts. Chan displays incredible combat skills, taking down opponents one after another despite being outnumbered. His past as a special forces officer makes him a formidable opponent. He fights with both strength and strategy, smashing lockers and overpowering his enemies. When his men fail, Lo sends in a massive professional MMA fighter. The giant is terrifying, capable of crushing anyone with a single blow. But Chan uses his wits, rubbing soap on his fingers and striking the fighter's eyes to blind him momentarily. The clash remains fierce and exhausting until it ends in a dramatic draw, both men collapsing unconscious at the same time. The police arrived at the hospital to open an investigation, while Chan quietly tended to his wounds. When the doctor examined him, he was shocked by the deep scars on his back and asked in surprise, "Are you really a teacher?" Chan remained silent, his eyes carrying a heavy past he didn't want to reveal. Meanwhile, the criminal Lo tried to mislead the police, shifting all the blame onto Chris and claiming he was the mastermind behind the plot. The officers were about to arrest the young man, but Chan intervened at the last moment, assuring them that Chris was just a law student from his school. He even paid the bail to secure his release. Afterward, Chan took his student to his grandmother's house. There, he showed him how the elderly woman struggled through hard work just to provide him with a living. Chris realized he was heading down the wrong path. With tears of regret, he promised his teacher he would return to school the next day to make his grandmother proud. He sincerely apologized to her and began helping her with her work. The next day, shocking news spread across television screens, footage of Chan's fights in the ring. The truth was finally revealed. He wasn't just an ordinary teacher, but a former Special Forces officer, a man not to be underestimated. Students and teachers were stunned, and the biggest surprise came when they learned he had studied at the same school many years ago. The students gathered around the elderly janitor to ask about Chan's past. The man smiled as he recalled the memories and told them Chan hadn't been as perfect as they thought. He had been rebellious and quick-tempered. Once he broke a classmate's arm in a violent fight and smashed the former principal's statue. But instead of expelling him, the principal forgave him and wanted to give him another chance. However, his neglectful aunt and her husband decided to send him to a military school in America. And there, the rebellious boy transformed into a Special Forces officer. The next morning, as Chan approached the school, he was surprised to see the teachers standing in respect and the students lined up to greet him after watching his fight on the news. He entered the classroom to begin the first lesson, only to find an unprecedented turnout. As days passed, Chan was no longer just a teacher. He became like an older brother and role model to them, and their grades improved noticeably. However, Ping continued to struggle. He kept receiving poor scores and felt deeply ashamed. Noticing this, Chan told him not to be sad and assured him he would provide extra support lessons to help him improve. But Ping remained affected. He took one of his medications used to treat anxiety. The next day, he told his brother Pong that he was sick and wouldn't go to school. After Pong left, Ping sat crying bitterly over his failures, then climbed onto a chair, thinking about ending his life. At the same time, Pong and their father appeared at the hospital after Ping collapsed from an overdose of his medication. This incident became a major turning point. School officials accused Chan of failing his mission, considering the student's suicide attempt as proof of his negligence. Chan explained that he had done everything he could and promised he would leave his job at the school as soon as possible. When the students heard about his departure, they ran after him, begging him to stay, but he bid them farewell with sadness and walked away, while all the students cried in the street. At that moment, Teacher Ling arrived and told them, "You must work hard and prove that Chan can be proud of you." The next day, parents complained to the principal after the authorities cut off the school's funding, but he insisted, saying, "We will not give up." The students began studying at home, supported by dedicated teachers who worked without pay. Meanwhile, the criminal Lo was planning to shut the school down for good. He obtained the students' phone numbers and sent them a message claiming that Teacher Chan was waiting for them in the classroom. When they entered, they were surprised to find he wasn't there. Suddenly, Lo arrived with his men, captured the students, and locked them in a hall to prevent them from taking the exam. He then began destroying the school completely. Fortunately, Chris managed to send a secret message to Chan, asking him to come and help before Lo's men could confiscate the students' phones. Hope began to rise once again. As soon as Chan arrived, a fierce battle broke out between him and Lo's men in the schoolyard. Before fighting, he turned to the students and told them he would give them a practical lesson in self-defense. He then launched into action, displaying his physical strength and advanced combat skills, using every corner of the yard to his advantage. One by one, he defeated his enemies, eventually freeing the students and taking down all the criminals. He then ran after Lo to stop him, but suddenly, the bitter truth was revealed. Lo was actually the same child whose hands Chan had broken in the past, depriving him of playing the piano, his greatest passion. With that loss, his life collapsed, his father abandoned him, and deep hatred toward Chan grew inside him. Chan was shocked by what he heard, while Lo fought more fiercely, driven by his burning desire for revenge. Their conflict turned into a brutal confrontation inside the classroom. Lo pulled out a knife, trying to end Chan's life, but Chan swiftly snatched it away. Just before delivering the final blow, he suddenly stopped and stabbed the knife into his own thigh, as if punishing himself. He realized he had been the cause of Lo's tragedy, so he left him alone, weeping over his painful past. After a short time, the students passed their exams with excellent results. Even Ping recovered from his coma and was discharged from the hospital. As for Lo, he abandoned his life of crime and returned to playing the piano once again. The authorities then announced the restoration of the school's funding after being amazed by the students' high scores. In the end, Teacher Chan succeeded in his mission. He transformed his troubled students into successful young people and saved the high school from collapse. In one final scene, Chan visits his former principal, now an elderly man in a wheelchair. It becomes clear that he was the reason Chan left the military and entered the world of education after Chan had once promised him he would become a teacher and help raise future generations. This brings us back to the question the principal asked Chan at the beginning, revealing the true reason behind his determination to work at the school. This was the film's summary, a story in which teacher Chan delivered a timeless lesson in sacrifice, loyalty, and education. If you enjoyed it, write in the comments the name of the movie you'd like summarized in the next video.